staying on the subject of feel, we were talking before about your last record. I know you're working on something new now, but your last record, Young Street, which is just this killer sort of killer combination of funk and jazz. A lot of times it's described as funk when critics talk about it, and I'm curious about your take on that word. It's one of those sort of difficult to define vibes, but what is funk to you?
Man, I use the word loosely. I call a lot of things funky. What we were listening to just a few minutes ago, to me, was funky. So to me, with funk, if I had to just kind of on the spot give it a definition right now, it would be anything that just has a pocket. In the term, there's two ways we can talk about funk. To use the term loosely, yes, anything with a pocket. I don't care what it is, from rock to salsa to classical to of course gospel to jazz, and in some of those genres that could be a curse word, to use. Right. But it's funky. It has a groove. It has a pocket. And it kind of just makes you move. And then there's the funk, when we talk about bands like Parliament Funk,
right.
P-Funk, and maybe even Earth, Wind and Fire, the Gap Band. Right. There's a lot of new bands these days. I don't want to start naming some because some might get upset because I left them out. So it's more of that 2/4 or 4 on the floor kind of hard pocket that derives from a bass and drums, even if it's an analog, which is real popular now, with the analog synths and the drum machine going, that's kind of like the typical, funk thing. So to me, it has kind of two different definitions. You can hear a lot of things and be like, man, that's funky.
Yeah.
Jaco was super funky and wasn't slapping his bass.
That's right.
Gary Willis, incredibly funky.
Yeah.
He's playing a fretless, and blowing your mind.
Yeah.
It's fine. Again, it's that pocket of just, grooving.
Human.
Feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned slapping. So let me talk to you about that for a sec. What you do, the stuff you were doing just now, sort of mimicking the drummer and that kind of thing, which is, partially, it's part of your signature sound,
right.
a little bit, and you're known for having your thumb on the strings and,
right.
and being able to lock in and kind of be the whole band by yourself if you needed to. That takes, to my mind, a solid sense of rhythm, a solid sense of time, a solid pocket, a solid groove. Where did that come from for you?
Started on drums. I started off as a drummer.
Okay.
So I think a lot of us musicians may have done. And I love drums. And at church, one day, I don't know, I may have been 8 or 9, a visiting church came and they brought they were rolling in PV amps taller than me, bringing in all kinds. Remember those big old...
Of course.
Yeah.
Way more than you do too.
Yeah. And they came in, and the bass player was incredible. And he was kind of showy, and he was doing this kind of stuff. And I was like, and then he was doing this kind of stuff. And I was like, whoa. So I took a interest in bass, really from him. This guy named Brian Wilder.
Okay.
And I didn't give up drums. I was still playing in marching band in school and all of that, and I liked playing with rudiments. I loved playing rudiments and paradiddles and stuff, and practicing on them. Marching band, that's what you do, right? But then as I started picking up the bass, my brother had an old Fender Mustang, which kind of looked exactly like that yellow and black bass right there. Yeah. And it was a 4-string. I started playing it, and I got into my I have 3 brothers and 4 sisters, and they're all musical. My other brother, who was a drummer, gave me like we were talking about. He gave me an 8-track
Okay.
of School Days.
Stanley Clark,
Stanley Clark.
one of my heroes.
Yeah, he said, man, listen to this, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to quit playing bass. I was like, what is he doing? So, yeah, that kind of launched. I was like, oh, okay, so there's a lot more that you can do on bass with the slap technique. At the time, I wasn't aware of Jerry Germont and, you know, some of these other guys that, you know, even Marcus. At that time, I wasn't even aware who Marcus Miller was.
Okay.
But after that, Stanley Clark, I went out looking for Stanley Clark music, and then people were, oh, you ever heard of Marcus Miller? You ever heard of this guy?
One thing led to the other, yeah.
Yeah, and so I appreciated what they were all doing, and I was, you know, it just kind of came natural with playing a lot of ghost notes and tapping, you know. And I think what we talked about earlier in terms of having that internal rhythm. Yeah. I think that stuck with me in practicing, and what made practicing more interesting to me if I'm and I started, oh, I like that sound. When my thumb just kind of hits the string, I mean, keep doing that. You know, so, and I didn't always have the 6th string, of course, so you get that higher tone there with it. But just having that little kick snare thing going on with the groove that I was doing, it was a way of me to practice, to feel like it just sounded more complete when I was practicing alone.
It also sounds like a process of trial and error. Oh, I like that sound. I'm going to do more of it. I'm going to cultivate that. Mm-hmm. Did you record yourself and listen back?
Yeah, that's how I learned how to do a triplet.
Okay.
It was by accident.
Tell me.
I was like, I still to this day don't know how it happened as an accident, but it's had to be in very early years of me playing. And I'd play to records, and I'd have a tape recorder recording myself playing to records. Okay. Because I was trying to concentrate on not being ahead of the beat, not being behind the beat. I wanted to be playing exactly what the bass player on the record was playing.
Gotcha.
So I'd listen to myself back, you know.
That's a really interesting practice. And at this point, you still didn't use a metronome?
No.
You were just doing it with the record?
Just playing to records and seeing how I sounded along with the record. Okay. And one time I heard something like, and I think what it was I was trying to do a standard octave pluck. Right. And I think what was happening, I don't know how, I really don't know how this happened, because it happened a couple of times, and I was like, what? That sounds like a triplet. How did I do that? I think I was by accident just kind of coming off, slipping, like not getting to it in time. Right. Like, and I was like, what is that? You know? And then I started practicing it, trying to get, as opposed to, I don't go under. Okay. Some people go under. I noticed a lot of bass players doing that, but I was like, no, I seem to do it another way, a little bit more natural. So I use my hand here. And that's how that just kind of evolved for me, and it just turned into other things along with the.